Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. And here's me and William tonight with a World War III report and the news. And I wanted to start off thanking William for being here tonight, for one. Uh, and I'm under the weather a little bit, so I told him that he might have to talk a whole bunch. So, well, I'm going to get going on this, and I'm going to start with Hawaii because Karen got a hold of me and she said, this land grab thing. Well, I watched quite a few um, um, of I guess, a town hall meeting, and they're accusing the the roundtable of the council of selling out to the 15-minute city. Not only that, with the land grab by quite a few people. And also, even Tom Hanks' son has come forward and said his dad may have had something to do with the fires. So there is a lot of rumors, a lot of propaganda, a lot of everything going on. But when you look at the people and what they say, they're fed up. They don't want a 15-minute city. And one gentleman even got in there and said, "How many of you are on the board?" And he said, "I want to see your how many. I want you to raise your hand and tell us." And nobody raised their hand. And he says, "I got a list of names." And the head lady running the this council meeting said, "We're not talking about that tonight." So they're hiding stuff. Now we know that we had the fire department was kind of called off. They were blocking people in. We had people jumping in the ocean. Now even Honolulu said if they would have known about this, they would have sent military or somebody in to help, but they didn't even know about it until it was kind of too late. So there's a lot going on, and they definitely don't like Biden. Now, William, you mentioned, me and you talked about this for a while today, and the problem is so many Democrats running Hawaii, and I think this is what we have ourselves in a pickle on this. Um, that they're just not understanding uh, what is at stake of selling out Hawaii to the New World Order. And William, I know you had a lot to say on this.
So remember, the Democrats are a group that's all about patronage. Patronage matters more than your capacity to understand or your competency in any other subjects. Patronage is what matters, meaning you go along with the marching orders, you stay in lockstep with the party, you move the party's agenda forward, and based on that, they'll give you different jobs that need to be filled in the administration because you can be trusted, right? You can be trusted to stay in lockstep and not ask questions and do as told. And so this is what's happening within this community. Another thing is happening as well. So we know the Democrats are globalists. Okay. So that's part of it. The other part is the globalists, like a lot, we just had that Burning Man thing. These are nonconformist globalists, want to have their own community, blah, 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 blah. Well, these are the very, these are the very richest and most well-to-do people out of San Francisco and around the country that go to this Burning Man thing. And yeah, the yuppies, right? They have.
We know them as yuppies. William, me and you are real close, and even a lot of our viewers are real close to our age. And we knew them as yuppies, not the hippies, the yuppies. And the yuppies were
Right.
kind of anti-hippie, and they wanted for all of us to conform. No, well,
So
all of us, not just the hippies.
Into the stock market and made huge, vast amounts of money, right? They didn't go in the military. They didn't serve. They didn't do that stuff. They went and made money. And then now they're trying to voiced their ideas upon us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now these people, the same folks that populate Burning Man, are running over to a place like Maui, right? Now, what is Maui? Maui is one of the most exclusive, beautiful places on Earth. And if you're going to be stuck in a 15-minute city, and you have assets and things that you have capacity to purchase land and whatnot, you want to get land in Maui. If you're going to be stuck in a 15-minute city, you might as well be in paradise. Okay. And so what we have here is a big push for land in Maui under this 15-minute city thing, and they have to free up real estate. So what do you think is going to happen? They don't have to go out and say, oh, like as the Democratic Party, we're going to start a fire and move these other people out of the way so we can move in our people. All they have to do is start the program anywhere else in the world, and these people are automatically going to migrate to where they want to be before this thing happens. Yeah. And so they've set up a series of ideas through the World Economic Forum, and these people are starting to migrate now, and they're going to make their way to where they want to be come hell or high water, right?
Yeah.
They don't care about any means is okay as long as they get their ends.
Yeah. Now, William, the thing is
with dictator type people.
What we seen at this meeting was they questioned, and they said they showed that first they said that this is what they planned on. They said there was no such thing. Then the gentleman brought up a brochure and said, here it is. And how many of you are on this board? Now, he had a list of names, and at least over half of them were on that board. And he says, I'm going to again ask. And they said, we're not going to talk about that. Now, then there was a lady that stood up, and this is what Karen and Susan's talking about in our chat, where they wanted to know, there is foundations raising millions of dollars with these celebrities. Where is this money? How come they don't have it? Who's keeping this money? Where is this money going to? And they wouldn't answer that either. They were there to basically discuss the concerns of what they were going to do and how they were going to rebuild. But they didn't want to talk about how they planned on rebuilding. And they didn't want to talk about money that should have been due to the people. And even Honolulu now is stepping in and saying, you know what, something's wrong here. This is Hawaii. We're not all of these separate islands where Hawaii is one. And so this is going to be interesting over the next few weeks, Karen. And I understand your concern, but you got to realize there's a lot of propaganda that's being pushed on.
Also, there's a dynamic going on in Hawaii. Remember, each island is a different county, and some islands have multiple counties. The people there are predominantly Democrat, and they're having a hard time wrapping their heads around what's happening to them. That this is a natural fallout of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken other people in the country years for this to understand what's going on, to actually look at the Democrats and see what they're doing and then extrapolating what they're doing as to their intentions, okay? Because words are cheap, right? Actions are strong. And this takes time for people to really cognitively understand. Well, the folks at Lahaina have been thrown into the deep end, right? And they're going through the whole process of grief, which is first disbelief, then anger, then or bargaining, and finally acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been thrown into the deep end of this Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, New World Order, and whatnot, and they're finding that they're not in part of the program. They're the garbage that is being thrown to the side, and they're trying to wrap their heads around it. And still, they're Democrats at heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how could these other people be doing this to us? Because we're Democrats, right? Democrats don't attack Democrats.
Mm.
Well, globalists don't give a crap who you are, all right? And they aren't protected. And now they're looking at it and saying, wow, we're 6,000 miles from Washington, D.C. It's like a different world away, and this is all impacting us. How did that happen? The ocean's supposed to keep us safe from this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And no, when we're talking about globalism, they mean the entire world.
Yeah.
Right? And people are getting caught off guard and being forced to question their loyalties, and they're finding themselves coming up short.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some real cognitive dissonance going on. It's brutal for these folks. They're out of their homes. They've lost family members. They're seeing things and activities around them that completely don't make sense. And all they have right now is the media and their words. The leadership around them has sold them out, and they're starting to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody in the world who wants to have a beautiful future, at least in paradise in their 15-minute city, they're coming.
Yeah.
And you have to get out of the way, because you're minor people and we're major people. Yeah, it's a brutal, disgusting, right, way that good, loyal citizens are being treated, and they had no idea this is the bargain they bargained for.
Yeah. Then we got, I want to kind of move on to with this VA. They failed to process 56,000 requests to update veterans' dependents dating as far back as 2011. Now, when I looked into this, I did see that where Obama was putting a stall on the Veterans Administration and a lot of cuts. And so now we have these veterans that they said Tuesday it failed to properly process all these requests, and veterans to add or remove dependents, some dating back to 2011 under the Obama administration. The agency discovered the mistakes while looking into technical problem that caused headaches. Roughly 900 veterans trying to file online, and their appeals on their PACT Act claims decision. And so the VA launched a review to its PACT Act online appeal process in August. And after receiving complaints from veterans, they went to military.com over these concerns. And when military.com looked into it, they found a lot of discrepancies. And now, mind you, military.com's the one that caught them with giving iPads to veterans or active members that were hacked by China. And on all the major cuts with medical, they cut raised the cost of their prescriptions. They've cut back on funding to the hospitals to where there's not enough doctors and nurses, to where it's taking longer and longer for the veterans to be seen. So this was all done in 2011, they said. And see, I thought it was recent under the Biden administration, but come to find out, all these cuts came in 2011. So now there's going to be a review and looked into who was responsible for this happening. And they're saying under foreign policy, it could have been Biden that did this, all these cuts. But they don't have get this, folks. These are documents that are being held by Joe Biden. I don't know if it's in his garage, if it's at the library, or wherever he has his documents. But these documents are missing. So we're not sure if Biden cut or if it was Obama. So, wow. And, you know, we got Blinken going over to Ukraine right now. And they're going to give them more money. You know, definitely more money. How much have we really given them? You know, they're talking $75 billion in assistance to Ukraine. But, you know, how do we break this down? Humanitarian was only 3.9 billion. Financial was 26 billion. Security assistance, 18. So see how they're separating all this out? Weapons and equipment, 23 billion. And grants and loans for weapons and equipment, 4.7 billion. Now, William, you told me something about them kind of how they move this money around so that it goes to Germany or even Europe for them to be able to what? I'll let you explain it.
Okay, so whenever you have a political party, they try to meet the political party's ends, and the Democrats happen to be globalists, all right? Well, what happened is Germany, England, the Netherlands, Spain, Italy, Austria, you guys get the idea. NATO countries, the Western countries, went along with this new world order, as well as the Middle East, okay? Saudi Arabia, Dubai, yeah, all of our friends there. And we got caught in this war, and everybody's coming up short. Now, Germany doesn't have enough energy. England doesn't have enough manufacturing. Netherlands stealing the farmers' land. Blah, 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 right? Well, now there's the governments are coming up short on meeting the people's desires, and somehow there has to be a foreign aid, right, to Europe. Well, you can't go and say, well, Europe screwed up doing the climate deal. There's no way you can do that politically. So how are you going to fund Europe? Well, you're going to have this procurement from Ukraine, go in and buy all of their necessities from inside of Europe, thereby transferring wealth into the European economy, so as European economies can thereby go out, purchase the energy, the food, the manufactured goods, whatever it is that you need to keep your particular government or system in Europe functional and keep the people happy enough not to revolt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the United States can't go out and say, well, we're sending money because of this failed policy coming out of the World Economic Forum.
And you see, you know, William, you see, it wasn't all on equipment. This thing was spread out, and that's what you see when they start moving money around, when they keep moving it into different places.
Yeah, so what's happened is in Europe, they've been playing musical chairs with their finances, right? Trying to reduce their governments down to these little dictatorships, basically, and they've run out of a seat, and everybody's trying to sit down, and there's no place to sit down as far as their economies. So we have to provide more chairs, more economic chairs into the program temporarily, right, until we can get over this war thing and go back to the Agenda 2030 plan. And this is how we're going to finance.
And get, you know, the thing that surprised me, William, was
Americans are going to be willing to pay for it because it's a war, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, William, what surprised me was out of the 75 billion, only 23 billion was actually put into weapons and equipment. I always thought there was more.
Armies move on their stomachs. The nation of Ukraine is destroyed. Okay?
Yeah.
They're also trying to manufacture their own weapons as well. So they have to scrounge all around the world for parts, even China, wherever they can get it. They don't care. They're just trying to win a war. And these monies are spilling out everywhere. That's why this defense minister had to be gone, because this money needed to be dispersed throughout the European continent.
And they got that new guy now. I think I got an article on that. Now, you know, William, you know, what gets me is we are let's see, I'm looking for how come the documents, okay, that Biden has, how come they're not prosecuted issues? Well, because
the VA.
No, for the ones I was talking about that they hid, that shows. You know, you have to realize, folks, that Biden has been in politics all of his life. He got in when he was getting in before he was even eligible for an age to get in. And he has been collecting all this. He's been collecting all these documents.
Job in his life.
Yeah.
He has lived off the government dole his entire life. Okay?
Yeah, that's all he knows. And every time he can get a hold of a document that could cover maybe what he's done, what Senator Byrd did back in the early 70s, or him and Bernie Sanders, the Democrat Party, all of that, they're going to grab up so you can't see. And he was always in position to be able to do that. Now,
and he can't destroy those documents, because if he's found destroying those documents, or anybody's destroying those documents for him, okay, that's a major federal case.
Yeah.
So the best he can do is just snatch up those documents and stuff them and squirrel them away someplace where other people aren't going to see them. And that's what's been going on. And this isn't just, don't put in your head that this is just Joe Biden doing this. All right? This is what has been taught to the government over.
You don't think Nancy Pelosi's done it, or others?
The Johnson administration.
You know, William, the thing is you don't, as many senators or congressmen that have been in politics all their lives, you got to realize Nancy Pelosi's probably done it. Schumer's probably done it. They're going to take documents, because he never should have had them in his possession during that time. But for some reason, they're going to overlook it. But how many?
Well, you can have plausible deniability on taking the documents. You can't have plausible deniability on destroying the documents. And so wherever there's plausible deniability, that's where the laws are going to be stretched. Mm-hmm. Wherever you say, oh, well, that's not what I was trying to do. I was trying to do something else, okay? They've always got some sort of a white lie to get them just past the letter of the law, right? And just complying with the letter of the law, but not the intent of the law. And this is what administrations have done since the Kennedy assassination. The Kennedy assassination is where it started. Hiding documents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to kind of move on with this huge nuclear threat strike issued on the United States. Should we be concerned? Now, the whole thing is, we have the Kremlin, and a lot of it's propaganda, um, but not, they warned of a nuclear threat against the West connected to the war in Ukraine. Now, the thing I didn't like on this article is when Putin says the West, he means Ukraine, Germany, Poland. He doesn't mean us. And I had to explain that last night to a friend of mine that didn't understand that. They really do think that Putin or China is going to attack us and nuke and blow us to smithereens. Now, William, you know that the United States is worth more as land and takeover to China than it is blowing it up. We got too much here that they could control.
Right. We're a financial asset to whoever could take over us. So it makes no sense to destroy the infrastructure. They just need to remove the people. Okay? So they're going to find another way. All right, that's that part. The other part is with this nuclear thing. In Russia, they have the equivalent of, they have state TV. They don't have an international TV like we have, okay, in the West. So there's not like oligarchs that have the power to do the press in Russia. It's Russian state TV, okay? It is an arm of the government. And in this arm, they do political shows like we did back in the 50s. So they will have this round table, 6 or 8 people arguing the merits of this, that, or the other tactic going on in the war, or politics at home, or how do you deal with other countries economically, or BRICS, whatever the subject happens to be hot that night, right? And you have on these commentators, all right, not this isn't the government, it's just the commentators on the show aren't the part of the government. They've been invited in. Now, some of these are still hardcore communists. Some of these are still hardcore Soviet individuals. And they are working through what they're seeing happen to them on their border, okay? Now, what's happening on their border is an outgrowth of their behaviors during the Soviet system, with the wall and all the Berlin Wall and all the other stuff, the Iron Curtain, their belligerence and whatnot. And so they're saying, look, now we're under threat. We have to do something about it. So we need to go to nuclear war because we don't want to send our sons and daughters, right? Let's not send our sons and daughters, let's send our warheads. So they're rationalizing how they can deal with this with the least impact on the people in Russia, not the people outside of Russia. How they can act in their own best interest. And so this is all being played out in public. At the same time, Putin has to now secure his warheads because now this is becoming popular, right? Let's use nukes. It's popular. Well, how is he going to secure his nuclear forces while it's becoming popular in its own population? He's going to have to escalate his DEFCON, right, defense condition, to the top level, because once you go to the top level, then you have all the security services on red alert to protect the warheads, because we may need to use them at any minute. Well, it's not to point them at the West. It's to protect those nuclear weapons from this population that's starting to lose their mind over this war.
And William, I don't think Putin would really threaten the United States unless they were threatening the military infrastructure or the military equipment they have in Cuba. That's just how I think Putin is.
There's another thing that's happening is the Russian foreign minister, okay, was over in Korea, North
Oh.
Korea, and they're looking to buy weapons, right? They have cash, they don't have weapons. We need weapons. We have a railroad, right? The Oriental Express. You guys know this railroad.
Mhm.
And look, will you ship us weapons? If we send you money, your population is starving, and you have an excess of weapons and a dearth of food. Look, let us send you rubles, under bricks. Now everything is going on here right now with North Korea, China, Iran,
Libya,
Brazil,
mhm.
and India. Okay, this was all discussed in South Africa. They weren't down there to do play economic footsie.
No.
They were down there to project how they're going to act in response to the G20 and the G8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And that's what we're seeing played out all over the world. And this nuclear threat issue, okay, is part of it. So that's why we've had suddenly the nuclear threat from Korea. And at the same time, Biden has said, we're not going to play games with North Korea.
Yeah.
You better stand down. At the same time, okay, our own SAC has gone to Vandenberg, put up another missile under testing to demonstrate, look, we can put warheads where we want them, when we want them. And you better stand down your nuclear forces.
Yeah.
So all this is a balancing act that's going on throughout the world. It's kind of like waves in an ocean, okay? And it's action and reaction based on these political necessities as these countries wake up to their dire situation. You're going to see these sort of actions. Same thing's happening in Syria, right? The same thing's happening on the border with Israel. The same thing's happening
even Mexico,
between India and China, even though they're on the same side a little bit with the BRICS.
Even right? Mexico isn't even going to go to G20 because they said they have been deceived by of what should come about with this one world. And they always thought, now this is what got me. And when I translated out, it was, we didn't realize that the world economics would have control over Mexico. And we are not willing to give up our control. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing. But, when we're looking at this huge nuclear threat, now I don't know how many publications I've seen, folks, and everybody's probably running this one to that one to this one to that one, saying, is it going to be war? Are they going to throw nuclear weapons? Is it going to be the world takeover? Are they going to cause a big disaster?
Yes, they will try to do all of the above.
Yeah.
They will be able to accomplish all of the above.
And I don't think it's just one thing, because I think what we're seeing around the world with, they call it climate change. I call it weather wars, because we all have the capabilities of messing with one another. And I'm not saying that they're causing earthquakes or weather or any of that, but they can shake up. Hey, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to shake you up. Well, I'm going to go after you. And hey, if you don't quit, I'm going to nuke you. And I think it's just what me and William call flexing of the muscles. And I think there's a lot of threats happening.
So you got flexing of the muscles going back and forth. And remember, on this New World Order thing, lots of promises have been made. Okay, lots of people have counted their eggs before the chickens have laid the eggs, right? And they're finding out, guess what? You don't matter. What matters is the New World Order.
Yeah. Well, their new thing was, oh my gosh, what was it? It was world order and to unity around the globe. And to me, that didn't sound like let's save the trees. Remember, I said that to you earlier, William. I said, this doesn't sound like climate control or let's do away with pollution. That's talking about a takeover. Unity.
What they're talking about is a human depopulation.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It is reducing the population of the world to a point that a few oligarchs can control the entire world. And they don't have to deal with military actions by nation states. They don't have to play this push and pull game anymore. They don't want to play the game. They just want to own the chessboard.
I think there's too many chiefs, and I think when it comes to who's going to run what, there's only going to be a few straws, and I think they're going to start burning one another. You know.
Right. Well, remember this whole thing is run by a group where there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And so they also want to get rid of the Indians, and then they want to kill each other off. This is basic feudalism. This is back to kings and queens, divine right of kings and queens, dictatorships, all the way back to Babylonian and Persian ideals of power and control. They want to reduce everything back before Greece started coming up with these ideas of government that gave people more autonomy. All right, they need to roll time back 3,000 years, 4,000 years, so they can be in absolute control of the globe. Because back then, right, when Greek and their enemies were fighting in the Aegean Sea, they didn't realize there was the rest of the world out there. They didn't know how big the globe was. They didn't have all the information. Well, now they have the information. They want to go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they can be in control of the entire world. They can just reset the entire world. It's called the Great Reset.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Great Reset. We'll depopulate the world down to a number of people that we can control with the leaders we've deluded into following us, right? Because it's not that many people. It's a few leaders and a lot of people being lied to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they need the liars. They need the liars to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And this is all about a big lie. This isn't about real military power. It's not about real economic power. It's power that's been taken from the people and being used against the people. It's people's individual best interest being used against them with their own finances, with their own properties,
Mm-hmm.
with their own laws, with their own governments, okay? And people are starting to catch on to this, and it's becoming a critical situation. Now, if Hillary could have gotten in instead of Trump, the timeline would have worked. It was a fait accompli. They were ready for
Mm-hmm.
the Agenda 21. Well, Trump broke that, right? Broke that mold, and now they have to go to a fallback position. That fallback position
Mm-hmm.
is Agenda 2030, and they have to keep anybody that's a nationalist, like Mexico wants to be a nationalist right now, right? Because nationalists are evil against the New World Order. So they have to suppress nationalism. And who does nationalism? Citizens,
Mm-hmm.
veterans, police, fire. All these people need to have their power stripped from them, need to be less of a threat, need to be brought to heel through the popular will of the people through these lies. And however you can do it through plausible deniability, okay, because every once in a while you're going to be caught, like Biden's stuffing away his papers, right? That's how they're going to do it. So they're going to use climate at the same time they're doing weather wars. They're going to do it through the EPA and through save the wild lands at the same time they're actually trying to take all the land from the people. It's always going to be a march towards their political goals through whatever means, okay, they can use through governmental power and the power of the people and taxes against the people. And we're just seeing this finally break out into the open. This thing with the internet was not supposed to happen. Elly and I were not supposed to have a global reach with a news show around the world. This was not supposed to happen, okay? They didn't anticipate this. This is why globalists believe that innovation is a sin. It's actually a sin. Don't innovate because it causes more problems than we're used to understanding, right? That things get out of hand. Well, things have gotten out of hand now. And that's the people now you're saying, what's going on? The taxpayers of the United States in Ukraine are saying, well, what's going on? And when they ask what's going on, they have to be placated somehow. So you have the defense minister of Ukraine moved out, right, and another one brought in, and so there won't be the questions. And now that defense minister can then send the money and buy things in Europe to prop up those governments. The old prime minister, he's not going to jail. He's not being having to find a safe place to live someplace else in the world. No, he's just moving to some other part of the government. He may be moving into a county government. He may be moving into a security area in some place else, okay? And at the same time, they can scream, we have to do this, we have to do this. Because why? There's a boogeyman out there. And who's that boogeyman? Is it really Russia? It's Wagner, right? Wagner is this boogeyman. They're going to come into Poland. Poland needs money right now, right? All this stuff's going on simultaneously, and it's just part of the game.
Yeah, and I think as we now Rand Paul, when Rand Paul starts on something, I always, I come to attention on it and say, oh, he's got to have something good. Well, he's got question about the coup leader in Niger, and the thing about it was he's now found out that Americans have been over there to assist the country's military for a better part of a decade. And see, they thought it was just something recent. And come to find out that we've been sending over soldiers to help for the last 10, 15 years. And he said, additionally, the casualties during the 2017 ambush is what basically the loss of 4 soldiers. And he started looking into the record of these guys. It showed that it's part of the coup is upset over the 9/11, that we are releasing 9/11 prisoners, not theirs. We're ignoring the coup. We're not supporting the coup good enough. And they also indicate the Pentagon previously used authorities to work with foreign partners. And so this is what he's looking into. And it's not just Niger. There's countries around the world that we don't, he says, we don't even understand why the soldiers are there, but they're there. And until we start opening up to find out what military or where, he says he's going to start with Niger and he's going to go from there. So Rand Paul's on to something, because it's like we pulled out of Syria, but then Biden put more in there that we really didn't know about. And now, William, you know this, in order to go to war, we're supposed to get approval from Congress. And Obama never did it, and the Biden administration isn't doing it.
So these are, remember, Obama went from land warfare towards quick reaction forces, special forces, okay? So when they did that, we couldn't have major forces in a field set up ready to go to war like we did in Germany during the Cold War, okay? So that strategy changed. Well, in order to keep the world from boiling over, just like Strategic Air Command keeps its missiles, its submarines, and its bombers on alert, right? We've got quick reaction forces, lily pads all over the world. Now, Congress okayed that there was going to be the 11 Constituent Commanders around the world, and one of them is AFRICOM. They sent a general out with a war cabinet, and they have a war room, right? And they look at Africa and say, now, what do we need where if something breaks out someplace else? Okay? So we're not there supporting a coup. We're there outside the capital, all right, in Niger, out near a border, and they happened to run into Boko Haram when they were out doing village, right? Because they go from village to village, making friends with the village leaders. It's just part of what you do, all right? When you set up security perimeters, you make friends of the locals, right? Of the natives. So they were doing that, and Boko Haram came, swept through, wiped out the village, by the way. So the Nigerians in that village were all slaughtered. All right. And it just happens that 4 of our, I think, 15 or 18 special forces got overrun. They were just overrun. They didn't expect this coming through. The intelligence wasn't quite good enough. Things happened, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I know that the Pentagon and the Department of Defense can't tell us where we have soldiers, but the thing that Rand Paul was stating was that they're not even telling Congress where they're sending these guys. And
well, Congress gave them the power to have the commander in the area, and they said, look, you need to make sure that the United States, okay, is protected in Europe. That means that even civilians, right, American civilians could go out and do business in Africa, and they're not going to be slaughtered. They're not going to be taken hostage. If they are taken hostage, how do we get the hostages
That's
back?
why we have so many military bases all over the world.
That's why the lily pad is there in the first place, right? Is to protect American interests. Well, Congress is now saying, but wait, we didn't expect this to happen when we made that law. Well, what did they expect to happen? They want to look at things from a legislative and from a lawmaking point of view. They don't want to look at it from a reality point of view in a near war zone.
You know, Colonel Flynn said something. He said, if we let Congress know, and this was Flynn, Colonel Flynn, and I respect this man. He said, if we let Congress know everywhere we were, they would pull us out, or they would expose missions that we were on to get rid of terrorists.
Yeah, they'd kill their own people out in the field. You can't tell Congress everything because they can't keep a secret.
No.
They leak like a sieve. It's whatever they can do to. Congress exists. The way it's set up right now is to bring monies back into their counties or their states. Okay, they're set out to bring in taxpayer money back from the federal government back into the states. They don't look at it and getting reelected. They don't look at it from a global safety perspective. They don't look at it from trying to avoid war at all costs. So they're kept out of the loop of a lot of things, and for good reason, because we got young men out there in the world that are falling out of the skies and snatching up hostages out in the middle of nowhere, Africa, and they've got to be there in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
These are quick reaction forces. It's not for the people. The guys that are in Niger aren't there for Niger. They're for all the surrounding. It's the center of Africa. It's for all the surrounding countries in case they have to hop on a bird and be out and take care of some situation that's developing.
Yeah.
Save an embassy, save somebody from being a hostage, stop some group that's decided they're going to start slaughtering all their neighbors in mass and create a genocide. Sometimes there are bad people out in the world that actually have to be removed.
Yeah.
Or the world boils over, and somebody has to deal with it, right? Well, those are the type of things that aren't discussed out in public.
And and I wanted to move on to Korea, because now that Korea is met with been over, and Putin, the ambassadors and their leaders are getting together. NATO says this is an unholy alliance. And the first thing I thought of, William, was, you know what? NATO's went around and got these people to go against Putin. And now, so China and Putin, and I mean, these aren't really good characters, but North Korea and Iran, like we talked about with Brit. Well, Brick is thinking the same thing, because that was one of the things that Jinping said, is how dare NATO go around and get a bunch of people to come after us, or a bunch of countries and leaders. It's not right.
Let's be honest. China and Russia and Iran and India and Brazil, these are all very big countries, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Heavily populated, big countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they said, look, we don't have our own NATO. We need a NATO. We've got to find friends. This BRICS thing isn't about money.
No.
This BRICS thing is a reaction
power.
to
I think it's about power, William.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization
because
becoming offensive rather than defensive.
To me, it's about power, because when you're looking at China and they look at Russia, because Russia's got a lot of military might. So does China. And Iran is close to nuclear. And then North Korea, you're looking at, to me, 4 superpowers in a way, to where. So now I think NATO's saying, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair.
Yeah, well, they're crying wolf. At the same time, they took the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was a defensive organization against the Soviet Union, right? It was for defense of Europe. They decided they were going to use it offensively and start a war in Ukraine. Well, the rest of the world said, oh my God, they've gone from defense to offense. We have to do something. They'll come for us next.
Yeah, and the whole thing was,
if you live in China, you live in Russia, that's what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing out in the world. You have to do something. You can't let yourself be run over. Well,
and what gets me though, William,
self-interest. Now, they're bad characters in those countries, okay? I'm not going to say that these countries' leaders aren't psychopaths, some of them, right? But they're their leaders, and this is what happens. This is how this is why weak governments in superpowers don't work.
Yeah. And what got me was, North Korea, is talking with Putin, and then all of a sudden the U.S. said, oh, we're going to launch our unarmed ICBM test nuclear capabilities because of what North Korea is doing. So
we have to show the rest of the world, okay? We have to show them we are willing to take out these other people. Remember, these are not just leaders of countries; these are warlords.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, they did this from Vandenberg Space Force.
Is a preeminent warlord in the world. That's the way the rest of the world sees it. Okay. saying that's the way the American people see it, but that's the way the rest of the world thinks and functions in their minds, is on a basis of warlords. Okay? And when you're the U.S. military, you have to meet people where they are. You can't be aspirational. You have to be reality, right? And so we're letting those crazies out there in the world know, even though Biden is doing whatever he's doing in the White House, right? Walking into drapes or whatever, that you can't play games with the U.S. military.
Well, yeah, you know,
You can't
and
play games with the U.S. Congress.
they said that, you know, this is all tested today because of rising tensions with North Korea. So that's today. And they said they have got to make a statement, like you said. And this was done out of Vandenberg. And they said that there has been threats. Well, now I'm getting questions out of Taiwan is...
Elly, we could have launched that off the East Coast.
Oh,
we
I know.
We have to occasionally test our weapons as well, okay? Yearly, we have to test our weapons.
But isn't it smart to do it out of Vandenberg? Because Vandenberg's in California, folks. And wouldn't it be smart to do it there?
A place where we test our missiles out into the Pacific Ocean, so
That's
that
right.
other countries don't have to be afraid.
Yeah, and then see the whole thing. What got me was if we don't, you know, we are talking tensions with North Korea, and that's where I said I got a message saying, is the United States threatening North Korea? And to me, I looked at it and I said, no, not really. I think they're just standing up to them. So would this be the first time that we've really stood up to what North Korea is dishing out at us? I mean, they've been doing missiles over Japan and Hawaii.
This is just language between psychopaths, okay? This is how powerful, crazy nations have to talk to each other in the background. You can't go in the press and talk about it this way. The world would go up in flames. You'd lose power. So these China's not going to say it that way. North Korea will a little bit. Iran will a little bit, but not too much. That's what they want to do. And so the United States has been, through the triad, the big balancing force in the world, that fulcrum that stops the world from devolving into crazy war. Remember, World War I and World War II are only 20 years apart. Since 1940, we've had 80 years of world peace without a world war. It's because something changed in the world, and that thing that changed was Truman sent out some men in B-29 bombers and dropped two weapons, one on Hiroshima and the other on Nagasaki. Yes. At that moment, world history changed, all right? And the rest of the world right now is trying to find a way around that fact.
Yeah. Now, here's I think this is what,
or whatever.
I think this is what the threat was, because it was the White House National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, issued a stern warning to North Korea during a press briefing on Tuesday. And he says, this is not going to reflect well on North Korea or Putin, and they will have to pay the price in this international community. We will continue to call on North Korea and Putin to abide by its public commitments not to supply weapons to either country, and it'll end up killing Ukrainians.
So Jake Sullivan is the preeminent globalist running our country right now.
Yeah, the former Clinton lawyer.
Let's be honest about it, okay? Yeah. And so he's the only one he trusts to talk about it.
So that was what the threat was. So he's saying, don't you two get together or there's going to be some problems, right?
Yeah. Well, his point, people are at the State Department, right? Victoria Nuland, she's pushing the big New World Order. They need Russia to stand down and allow the bankers in, right?
Yeah.
So they can have, this is an economic takeover so that bankers can control the world, all right? The powerful thing, because they have more pennies in their piggy bank that they should run the world.
Yeah.
But turns out that pennies aren't more powerful than bullets. And so they're trying to find a way around the bullets. They're trying to find a way around the nuclear weapons. They're trying to find a way around the militaries. And this is going to be this thing that's pushing back and forth crazily, all right, as they're trying mightily through back channels to get around this thing that has kept the world safe and secure for 80 years. And they're frustrated. And the lies coming out in social media, and they can't put a cap on it fast enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, what got me was, you know, I heard them, Sullivan say this, and it's like, where was Sullivan to threaten Iran when they wanted to send nukes over to Israel? They didn't.
Who makes? Why do the Irish people, right? The Irish, who doesn't have a military, why should they control the world?
That's right.
Look who's functioning right now all around in our government, pushing as hard as they can.
Yeah.
This is how the world works. You come to America, you start your family there, you get involved in banking or whatever, you get your people in office, and then you get the Americans to fight your wars for you, because you can't get your own people to fight your war.
Well, a lot of them don't even have military, though. That's what surprised me. I thought
in our face right now.
I was naive, you know, in my 20s and stuff, when I found out not all countries got their own little military to defend themselves, you know, because I was asking, why does the U.S. have to always step in to protect these countries? Well, a lot of them don't have their own militaries, and they do depend on the United States to protect them, or the world superpowers.
These small countries, when they decide to go to war, they're like the ancient Hawaiians or the ancient people of New Zealand. They pound their chests, they run up to each other. There's this big display of fury. Nobody really ever fights, right? Sometimes they do, but they try not to, because, you know, nobody wants to die for things. And then the pressure's relieved and everybody goes home and goes back to their lives. All right? So it's just tribal territorial integrity that they try to maintain.
And then, you know, the thing.
That's great. But if you're trying to create a new world order, you have to have a fighting force that's willing to fight to the death.
Yeah. And
every time.
And, you know, the other thing it was, I was wondering why Kamala Harris and I think there was 3 or 4 others that went over to Beijing and Indonesia. And I was wondering about, and then I seen an article that China is talking about taking pretty much Taiwan, most of the countries on the other side, all the way through Indonesia to India. And then all of a sudden we have Kamala Harris over there. We have her in Indonesia. What's her? Oh, goodness. I don't think I have the article.
She went to like the Solomon Islands and tell them, look, we know that China has said they'll send you X amount of dollars if you do X, X, and X. We'll just send you more money, okay? So you can set that aside. And that's what's going on, is there's promises being made.
Yeah.
And dollars being moved around to keep the peace until the next election, all right? This is all about, don't do anything that rocks us from not being able to stay in power.
Yeah.
They only act when their power base is threatened. They're reactionary. They're not proactive, except for the cult of globalism.
Yeah.
Then they'll act against their own self-interest because That's a religion. That's the religion. That's not their political stand, whatever. They have two objectives: gain power and control the world.
Yeah. And you're not even hearing much with Somalia or Syria this week. And Somalia, it's we keep it's kind of like the title of the show. Are we starting wars? And it really does look like it to the normal reporters, independent reporters, or even people around the world are saying, why is America coming over here to start a war? And they're asking if it was the industrial war complex. I know I didn't get that right.
The military-industrial complex.
Yeah, that's it.
No,
that's
it's actually not the military-industrial complex. It's the banking, business industrial complex that's being protected quietly by the military because they were sent there by Congress through these constituent area battle commanders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through AFRICOM to protect these individuals going out to do business,
Mm-hmm.
which is good for the economy of the United States. And
or
so
is it good for
is
it good for the World Economics Forum for gathering and making it all one world?
Yeah, well, if they can use that money that they make in Africa to do ESG to the people in America, well, that's a twofer, right? You can do more than one thing at a time. You can walk and chew gum.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. There's never any one thing going on. There are always multiple things. Because remember, they're trying to push an agenda. There are people trying to push back against agendas. There's always two sides in every government.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get past all of these different problems and issues before the people in those countries realize what's going on and turn against those issues. And so one side's using the military for nefarious reasons, another side's using the military to protect and keep problems that will develop in other countries from making it to the United States. So there's people doing things for good interest and bad interest. These people in the government that are pushing this new world order, at the same time, they have jobs in the government and are collecting their money from what they're doing in the government and getting benefits and health benefits. They bring those things home and they take care of their families. So they're doing a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. And that's the way governments work, is they don't always have the same thing going on. The great thing about the United States, and the reason we're a superpower and the rest of the world is not the great superpower military United States, is because after we do everything wrong, we finally have to do something right. We continue to work through problems, right? The rest of the world can just do the thing wrong and never do the thing right.
Yeah.
So we're not the best idea in the world. We're just the idea that works the best in the world.
Yeah.
But that's what matters. That's what matters in the way this world works.
Did you want to add anything before we close? This went by quick.
I think you made it more than an hour. I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me to share what little I know, what I've learned over the years.
We combine our heads together.
Recognize what's going on around them. Thank you, Elly.
Yeah, I think we combine our heads together, and the discussion helps. And I hope we really explain this well to you people and our viewers. That
Elly? To the viewers, Elly sees things from a civilian point of view. She sees things from a point of view, say, of ecology and what's good for mothers and what's going on in the homes. Then she brings me and I look at it from a military and a destructive and undestructive, and how governments like to kill each other, because I come from inside that machine. And the two of us are able to bring a perspective that most people don't get.
We're not hearing this on the news. You know, I have to go look this stuff up because I just can't find it on the news, you know, and I have to check with my resources from all over the globe. And then sometimes they even send me stuff and I have to say, oh, wow, you know, and I run it by William. So, but yeah, William, I think we're a good tag team for the news on the World War III report, so we can start informing these people what they really don't understand. A lot of the stuff we go over, you know, I had to even look into it to see exactly how it works, or why, when, where, and why North Korea is so flip-floppy. You know, one time they're good with Trump and they're okay with the United States, and the next minute now they're hooking up with Putin and wanting to give him, you know, missiles and money and trade. So
we have people acting not in our best interest here in the United States, going over, causing problems, and then there's actions and reactions, and then the good people have to go in and put those little fires out. And
yeah,
we're just seeing the push and pull of people demanding that their government be accountable to them.
yeah. Well, okay, William, we got another Wednesday under the belt, and tomorrow night it's me and Lee to continue on, and with the crime, what's going on with crime and gangs. I think I want to push a little bit more on gangs tomorrow night. So come on back tomorrow. We'll be here, and I'll be feeling probably a lot better than I am today. They say I can only get better. They don't think I'm going to get worse. So with that, you guys subscribe and hit the like button, share, and ring that bell so you can get notified that we are having shows. And of course, we're over on Facebook. Just hit that like and, you know, subscribe to Facebook, and you'll get the notification. All right, William, thank you. And we thank our viewers for their support. And we will see you all tomorrow. So thank you all very much. And thank you, William.